Hey guys, welcome back to Ad Lib Talk, and this is my review for Borat Subsequent Moviefilm. Now, the first Borat movie has a special place in my heart. It is, in my opinion, one of the funniest movies to ever come out and attempt to analyze American society and politics in general. Now, it released 14 years ago in a completely different world. It managed to analyze the different peculiarities of American society very, very well. And it was incredibly quotable. For example, the world is still plagued till today with quotes like "very nice" or "yak shema," or that very horrible Mankini. It was funny, and it was the right movie at the right time. I'll be honest, I had absolutely no idea that a new Borat movie was actually coming out. But a few weeks ago, I actually saw an advert on Amazon, and yeah, apparently a second Borat was coming out. I was completely gobsmacked. Borat was quite shocking back in the day, and I was wondering to myself, what would the reaction be to a second Borat movie? Keep in mind that, like I said, Borat was an extremely shocking movie, and by today's standards, I was worried that Borat might be cancelled. Would it be able to be as audacious as it was 14 years ago? Would it be as funny as the original? Let's find out. Before I start with the actual review, don't forget to leave a like on this video if you enjoy it, and please do consider subscribing. It would be of great support to my channel. Thank you, and let's get right into the review. Now, let me come out straight away and say that this is nowhere near as funny as the original Borat. It's not as powerful either as the original Borat, and I think it would have been ridiculous to expect lightning to strike twice. However, this is still a side-splitting comedy. I think it's still extremely provocative and extremely good social commentary and political commentary about America. Unfortunately, it is bogged down a little with a storyline which I really honestly couldn't care much about, as well as the fact that Sacha Baron Cohen this time goes full blast politics, and whilst that's very good, it's just the social commentary of the first one is a little ignored in the second Borat, and I think that was what made the first Borat one of the best comedies to ever come out, basically, on TV. Let's put it this way, Borat Subsequent Moviefilm starts off with Borat himself in a horrible situation. Basically, he has been digging ditches for years in a Kazakh gulag due to the reaction and due to the way he portrayed Kazakhstan in the first movie. Well, apparently the Kazakhstan premier considered the movie's portrayal of Kazakhstan as a ridiculous country very offensive, and so he's being punished. Now, however, he is being given an out, and that out is that he must visit the US of A again and visit the US Vice President Mike Pence. And together with Kazakhstan's Minister of Culture, who happens to be a monkey, he must go there and present him with a present, with a gift. Now, he travels to the United States of America, but as he arrives, he finds out that his daughter, Tutar, has replaced the monkey, which has apparently been eaten by Tutar herself. She is 15 years old and is apparently the oldest unmarried woman in Kazakhstan. Yeah. So, thus, Borat must accomplish his mission to avoid being killed by his premier, and together with his daughter travels around the USA, first trying to give Mike Pence his gift, then eventually midway through, actually a bit before midway through, but somewhere around there, Borat changes his objective, and the objective changes to the infamous Rudy Giuliani. Now, starting off with performances, I think Sacha Baron Cohen is, as always, comedy gold. I am a big lover of Sacha Baron Cohen's, social and political comedy. His timing is perfect. That's one thing that always gets me. His timing, it is excellent. And he is audacious as ever. I'm sure everyone expected that. I definitely did. What I did not expect, and what I found very surprising and was very pleasantly surprised, was Maria Bakalova as his daughter, Tutar. Now, Borat as a character requires a sidekick. We saw that in the first Borat movie. And again, in the second Borat movie, this time we have his daughter, Tutar. And some of the best moments in this movie actually include her in that movie. I think she is what makes this movie a good one. There is one horrific dance sequence which I will talk about, and also the final climactic gotcha moment, which I will also comment about, which are two of the main moments of comedy in this movie. There's just something about her. It's just the way her wide-eyed looks as she pranks unwitting Americans. That was missing from the first Borat, and I think it was an excellent addition. She is, like I said, involved in pretty much all the funniest moments of this movie. Before I talk about the different pranks, let me take a moment to talk about, I think, the three major issues this movie faced before even starting off. Now, the most obvious is the fact that by now Borat is a well-known character. So obviously, Sacha Baron Cohen is going to have an issue trying to prank people who know who he is. So they address this in the movie by obviously showing Borat being recognized by several Americans, and thus he must get a disguise to be able to continue pranking unwitting Americans. Now, this obviously is the pretty much only solution they could have gone around doing. However, this also leads to some problems, in my opinion. First of all, the first movie made a sort of suspension of disbelief for you, in the sense that this is a journalist from Kazakhstan who had absolutely no idea what's going on here, and he's trying to find out about American society, which was good, which made it even funnier than it actually was. However, the issue in this movie is that the fact that we have Sacha Baron Cohen wearing disguises, very clever disguises, very complex disguises, leads to your loss of that suspension of disbelief. And thus, in your head now, it's that this is not Borat. This is a very, very clever Sacha Baron Cohen who's going around dressed up in different costumes. And thus, the movie, in my opinion, does lose a bit of that humor. I also do miss the suit and the mustache look, obviously. Who doesn't? That's number one. Number two, we live in a very different society to the one where George W. Bush was president, right, 14 years ago. Basically, we live in a world where we have Facebook, where we have Twitter, where we have Instagram, and through these different social media websites, we have been exposed to the crazies, basically. We have been exposed to the horrible underbelly of American society. Now, the first movie did that very successfully. Most of the things that the first movie showed about American society, I personally had absolutely no idea about. But in this movie, the movie shows off things like QAnon, right? And these horrible conspiracy theories about the idea that Democrats steal kids and suck their blood, and they, live off that blood, and, all these crazy Holocaust deniers and whatnot. All these things, if you do follow a bit of American society and politics, you will know about. So due to the fact that we already know about these horrible things about American society, they will not impress you as much as the first Borat movie did. But obviously, there's no work around these things, right? Social media is what it is. So that was a second issue. And I think Sacha Baron Cohen did his best with his incredibly funny takes on something like QAnon, for example, or the coronavirus is a liberal hoax theory. And I think it's just how funny he is taking on these incredibly ridiculous topics makes them even better, in my opinion. So that's issue number two. And finally, the biggest issue here. This is a political comedy. Sacha Baron Cohen is obviously tackling the craziness of America in the past 4 years, with the major issue being the president, Donald Trump. Now, Donald Trump himself is comedy. What do I mean by that? He is funny. I mean, I find him quite funny. Funny in a bad way, but still funny. He is pretty much a parody of the office in which he is, right? He's basically a parody of the President of America. So how does one make a parody about a parody himself? That is an issue, I think, again, Sacha Baron Cohen did his best to tackle by pretty much ignoring Trump himself and tackling the secondary figures like Mike Pence and Rudy Giuliani, for example. And I think that was the best thing he could have done. Now, as I mentioned before, Borat and Tutor travel around America, travel around the USA, pranking and fooling unwitting Americans in very hilarious pranks. There are some moments of total and utter cringe in which I could barely look at the screen. But nothing which reached the level of the first movie, apart from that horrific dance sequence, which I'll talk about very, very soon. Now, let's focus on the main pranks in this movie, and we'll tackle them one by one and see how successful they actually were. So, Borat now has to give his daughter to Mike Pence. It's the only solution he can think of as to how to sort of save himself, because if he doesn't give his prize, his present to Mike Pence, he will be killed by his premier. So Borat takes Tutar to speak to one of America's leading feminist, Macy Chanel, who is an Instagram influencer and self-proclaimed sugar baby, which is obviously a comedy take on these sort of sugar babies and influencers on Instagram. Now, I swear I thought this scene was scripted. Honestly, it felt so scripted, but apparently it's not. This is an excellent scene which showcases the true reality of the toxic environment encouraged by these influencers on social media, who hide behind their very fake smiles. We also have another very horrific scene, which I've been alluding to before, the famous menstrual blood dance. It's shocking. It's one of the most prominent scenes in this movie. It's one which will disturb you, but I think it's a good take. I'm glad it was there. I'm glad someone actually tries to make fun of this topic. I think I've never seen comedy this prominent about this topic. Anyways, so Borat then attempts to gift Tutar to Mike Pence. And this is again a very funny sequence where Borat takes Tutar on his shoulders and calls out to Mike Pence during a Republican convention. During this scene, there's actually quite also a very disturbing scene, as you see Mike Pence assuring Americans that coronavirus is under control. Remember, this is way back in March, I believe. So, obviously, considering the situation that America is in right now with coronavirus, I think it's horrible to think that Trump and Pence knew what was going on and knew that the situation was not under control and would never be under control, considering the way they tried to tackle it. But anyways, that's off topic. So there are also some heartwarming moments, specifically two. There is one moment with Tutar's babysitter, where Tutar starts to learn that, listen, her life does not have to be lived in a cage, that, you know, she has some very bad ideas of what women are supposed to do, which have been given to her, obviously, by her father. And Tutar's babysitter, again, nothing scripted. It was all honest. It was all real. And I was glad to see that actually there are some good people out there as well. Another very funny moment was when Borat entered into a synagogue dressed like a stereotypical Jew. Here he meets a Holocaust survivor who assures him that the Holocaust did in fact happen. And that is obviously to Borat's delight, as he had heard the conspiracy theory on true Facebook that the Holocaust did not actually happen. Then after the scene, we zoom in onto coronavirus, as Borat suddenly notices that no one is out in the streets. Anyways, Borat ends up quarantining with two men, and it is here we get to learn more about QAnon. And it is here that the movie starts to become more political. Borat goes to the March for Our Rights rally in Olympia, Washington, to find Tutar there. And he sings one of the funniest songs I've ever heard, honestly. What are we going to do? Chop them up like the Saudis do. Inject Obama with the Wuhan flu. This is comedy gold. And the things you see in this rally will horrify you. So I was laughing at one point, and then suddenly I stopped laughing, and I was shocked when I saw a Nazi salute in this March for Our Rights rally. So it's a reminder that, listen, you're laughing, yes, but actually there are people who agree with what is being sung, which is horrible to think about. The climax of this movie. Now, the climax of this movie is obviously the Rudy Giuliani scene, and everyone knows this, right? The moment when Tutar interviews Giuliani and sort of seems to try to attempt to seduce him, it's not completely clear, but there is this hint. Anyways, just as they're in the bedroom, Borat charges in crying, "She's too old for you, take me instead." And this chilling moment has many people questioning whether he really was going to attempt to have sex with her or not. And again, did he know she was 15? I don't think that's been made clear or not. Anyways, Maria Bakalova clearly led him on in this situation, but a man of his experience should not have fallen for this prank. He should have seen this prank a mile away. Anyways, what were the takes from the two? So Rudy Giuliani claimed that he was tucking his shirt after taking off his recording equipment. He tweeted this: at no time before, during, or after the interview was I ever inappropriate. If Sacha Baron Cohen implies otherwise, he's a stone cold liar. Now, on the other hand, Sacha Baron Cohen stated that, well, I would say that if the president's lawyer found what he did there appropriate behavior, then heaven knows what he's done with other female journalists in hotel rooms. I just urge everyone to watch the movie. It is what it is. He did what he did. Make your mind up. It was pretty clear to us. I agree with Sacha Baron Cohen. Watch the movie and make up your own mind. Needless to say, there are many other short skits throughout the movie which are very fun, very funny, and, make the movie what it is. The fax machine scenes, comedy gold, very, very funny. The cake scene was absolutely hilarious. Honestly, the way that scene worked out horrified me. The fact that she's writing this anti-Semitic message on a cake and then putting on the smiley faces underneath without batting an eyelid, I can't believe it. When Sacha Baron Cohen enters the Conservative Political Action Conference dressed up in the KKK outfit, saying that this was his best disguise to get through. Incredible. The balls on the guy are truly unfathomable. So, to conclude, it is clear that Sacha Baron Cohen has worn his political heart on his sleeve for this second rendition of the character of Borat. There's a clear message at the end, right, to go out and vote. And the timing of this movie is not a coincidence. Clearly, it's come out just before the election for a reason. Whether you enjoy this movie or not depends on a number of reasons and a number of situations and factors about yourself. First of all, do you enjoy American politics? If not, I don't know how much interest you will get from this movie. There are still a lot of those social commentary scenes in Borat, but much less than in the first script. This movie is much, much, much more political, many more political jabs. And I fear that if you're not that interested in American politics, you might find this movie a little dragging and a little uninteresting and not as funny as it could have been. That's point number one. Secondly, do you enjoy Borat as a character? Do you love the crude jokes and the cringe-worthy moments? If yes, then again, go and watch it. It's on Amazon Prime. If not, this movie is not going to change your opinion about Borat. Don't watch it. I think those are the two main factors which influence your potential enjoyment of this movie. In my opinion, as someone who does enjoy following American politics and American social and economic factors in general, I did really enjoy Borat. Subsequent movie film. I don't think it was good as the first one, but I still think it was a very powerful comedy with some very effective social and political commentary. I think the one thing that bogged this movie down a little was the sort of the emotional arc that this movie takes, which I personally couldn't care much about. There's much more of a plot in this movie than in the first Borat, and I feel like it bogs down the sort of the jokes a little. There are too many of these moments between Borat and his daughter where honestly I couldn't care less about what was going on. I just wanted them to get to their next skit, their next, comedic moment. There was no emotional attachment between myself and, the daughter and father relationship, basically. I really couldn't care less. I'm here for the comedy. I'm here for the skits. And the comedy and the skits are very, very good, which means that although you have this emotional arc, which I really couldn't care about, it's still a very good movie, a very good comedy, and I give Borat Subsequent Moviefilm a 3.5 out of 5. Go and watch it if you enjoy Borat. Go and watch it if you enjoy comedy in general, or very crude jokes and very cringeworthy jokes. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this review. If you did, again, don't forget to leave a like on this video, and if you have not so far, please do consider subscribing. It would be of great support to my channel. Thank you once more, and I'll see you guys next time right here on AdLib Talk.